They assigned her to guard the tarmac. Then a retired general dropped his cane when he saw her. On a quiet military airfield just before sunrise, the tarmac looked like it always had, wide, empty, and unforgiving, the kind of place where nothing ever happened, until it did. For the officers watching from a distance, her assignment seemed routine, almost insulting. Guard the tarmac. No ceremonies, no VIPs, no action. She stood alone near the edge of the runway, boots aligned, shoulders squared, rifle steady. To many she looked out of place, young, silent, unremarkable. Some even whispered that the command had made a mistake assigning her there. This was United War, and this was a story no briefing ever prepared them for. She had been placed there not because she was special, but because someone believed she was invisible. As transport vehicles rolled in and out, senior officers passed without a glance. Jets screamed overhead, shaking the ground beneath her, but she never flinched. Her eyes stayed forward, her posture never broke. Then, from the far end of the tarmac, a slow-moving figure appeared. A retired general. His uniform was ceremonial now, medals catching the morning light. In one hand he carried a cane, less for balance, more as a symbol of years spent commanding battlefields and shaping history. He wasn't supposed to stop, but then he saw her. Mid-step, the general froze. The cane slipped slightly from his grip. His expression changed, not to confusion, but recognition, the kind that hits like a memory you never expected to face again. The officers nearby noticed immediately. This was a man who had stood unshaken in war zones, yet now, on an ordinary tarmac, something had unsettled him. He took a step closer. His eyes scanned her stance, her insignia, the way she carried herself. And in that moment, the tarmac was no longer quiet, because whatever the retired general saw in her, it was something no one else had noticed, and it was about to change everything. The officers nearby exchanged confused looks as the retired general slowly stepped off his path. This wasn't scheduled. This wasn't protocol. He stopped just a few feet in front of her. She didn't move, didn't salute, didn't speak. Her eyes remained fixed straight ahead, locked on an invisible point beyond the horizon. To anyone else, she was just following orders. To him, it was something far deeper. The general adjusted his grip on the cane, his voice quieter than expected when he finally spoke. "Where did you learn to stand like that?" The question caught the surrounding officers off guard. No one had asked her anything all morning. Still, she waited, just as she'd been trained. Only when permission was given did she answer, her tone calm, controlled. "From my father, sir." The general's breath stalled. He looked again, this time not at her uniform, but at the details most people missed. The disciplined stillness, the slight angle of her shoulders, the way her hand rested near the rifle, ready but restrained. He had seen that posture before, years ago, on a different runway, in a different war. Back then, it belonged to a man who had once saved his unit under fire, a soldier who never sought recognition, a soldier who disappeared from the records long before his story was finished. The general took another step closer, ignoring the tension building around him. "What is your last name, soldier?" She answered, and the sound of it hit him harder than any battlefield explosion. The cane struck the concrete, not from weakness, but from shock, because the name confirmed what his instincts already knew. She wasn't assigned to guard the tarmac by accident. She was standing on the same ground where her father had once stood, and where his own life had been spared. The officers watching began to realize this wasn't a coincidence. It was history, standing at attention. And the general was about to reveal a truth
the command had buried for decades. The air around the tarmac felt heavier now, as if the past itself had stepped forward. The retired general slowly removed his cap. That single gesture silenced everyone. "I knew your father," he said at last. Her jaw tightened, but her posture never broke. She had heard that sentence before, usually from men who knew nothing. This time felt different. The general's voice carried the weight of memory. "There was an operation they erased," he continued. "No medals, no reports, just orders to forget." The nearby officers shifted uncomfortably. This was not something spoken aloud, especially not here. Years earlier, her father had been assigned to a classified unit responsible for protecting strategic airfields during wartime evacuations. The missions were simple on paper: hold the line, no matter the cost. But one night, everything collapsed. Enemy forces breached the perimeter. Communications went dark. Evacuation planes were minutes away from landing, and failure meant hundreds would die. Her father volunteered to stay behind, alone. He held the runway under fire, guiding planes in with handheld signals while explosions tore the ground apart. He refused extraction, refused backup. He bought time, enough time. The general swallowed hard. "Because of him," he said quietly, "I'm standing here today." Then came the part she had never been told. After the operation, command buried the incident to avoid political fallout. The unit was disbanded, her father was reassigned, then quietly discharged. No honors, no explanation. And now, years later, history was repeating itself. The general looked back at the tarmac. "They put you here because they needed that same kind of soldier again, and they knew only one family could produce it." For the first time, her eyes flickered, not with emotion, but with understanding. This wasn't punishment. It was a test, and she had already passed. But the truth was about to come out, and once it did, nothing about this base would remain the same. The retired general stood silently for a long moment, staring across the runway as if he were seeing two timelines at once, the past and the present overlapping on the same strip of concrete. Then he turned toward the senior officers. "This soldier does not belong out here," he said. The words hit harder than any shouted command. "She belongs in the records you erased." No one spoke. No one dared. The general stepped back in front of her, his voice firm but steady. "Your father saved lives that night," he said, "and today you're doing the same thing, standing ready where others look away." Slowly, deliberately, he raised his hand. He saluted her. It wasn't ceremonial. It wasn't for show. It was respect, long overdue. The officers watching understood instantly. A salute from a man like him was a message that couldn't be ignored. Within hours, phones rang, files were reopened, names long buried resurfaced in classified archives. By sunset, her assignment was changed, not because she failed, but because she had been seen. Before leaving, the general placed his cane against his leg and spoke one last time. "History doesn't forget," he said. "It just waits for the right moment to stand at attention again." She remained on post until relieved, exactly as ordered. But from that day forward, the tarmac was no longer just a runway. It was a reminder that courage can be inherited, that silence can carry power, and that even the smallest assignment can reveal a legacy strong enough to stop a general in his tracks. This was United War.